My name's Jenny Delmer, and today I'm sitting down with someone who brings care, clarity, and courage to a space that affects thousands of women every year. Vic Holyoak, aka Midwife Vic, is the founder of C-Section UK, a digital platform supporting women across the UK and right here in Guernsey to have better, safer caesarean births. Thanks for joining me, Vic.
Thanks
How are
for
you
having
today?
me. I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I'm excited to be here.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you. So let's get to know you. If I can cast you back to when you first came to Guernsey, because you're not originally from here.
No, I'm not.
Do you want to
my
tell
accent
us?
give it away?
A little bit, yeah. Do you want to tell us where you're from and what brought you to Guernsey?
Yes, I am from Northumberland, so that's the northeast of the UK, and I have a really jam-packed few years before I came to Guernsey. So I started off in the UK, headed off to Doha in the Middle East for a couple of years after a very random job offer landed into my email for a midwifery unit over in Doha, the first of its kind.
Wow.
So I went over, it was really good. Went over there for a couple of years, set up midwifery as a service. I was part of the team that set up midwifery as a service over there.
That sounds like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, no, it was. It was very much the culture of healthcare and maternity in the Middle East at that time was very much doctor and nurse led, and the role of the midwife was not something that had really been heard of. They hadn't heard of it before. So I was one of the first group to head across there who introduced the role and the service that the role could bring. And was predominantly in recovery and postpartum care when I was out there, which is quite a change from what I'd done previously, which was mostly labour and intrapartum. So I was out there for 2 years, had a whale of a time, did all sorts outside of work, like dance classes and met people, and
So
it was really good fun.
Working hard and playing hard.
I'd say playing harder. Definitely. If anyone is familiar with the Middle East, they'll be familiar with brunch. Did brunch a lot. That was good fun. And then after 2 years, just before COVID, due to some kind of family health stuff, and I think, if I remember rightly, there was politically, it was getting a bit hot at the time. So I made the decision to go back to the UK. And whilst I was looking at going back to the UK, I discovered this teeny tiny island called Guernsey, and it had a job opening. And I thought, well, I'll go over there for like a day and see what it's like. Came over, had the job interview, was offered it. And then I thought to myself, well, I'll just go for 6 months. I'll go for 6 months, and that'll be a nice transition towards heading back to the UK. And that was 6 years ago, like so many people who come to Guernsey. And now I go between the Northeast and Guernsey quite regularly, and London for the work that I do now, which I'm sure we'll get into, and family as well.
Yeah. Fab. Wow.
And then I met you.
So talking about meeting me, you've obviously been part of some of our startup programs here at the Digital Greenhouse. Tell us a bit about what C-Section UK is, and let's talk about where the idea came from. So we obviously know that you have been working in midwifery for many years at this point. You've got some great experience, especially setting up that unit in Doha must have been, almost like a great foundation then for thinking about starting your own business. Can you give us some more information on where it came from?
Yeah, sure. So to answer your first question, C-Section UK is a digital health platform that is designed to support women having C-section births and recoveries to help them have safer and better C-section journeys. this digital platform offers digital courses and resources, as well as clinics with our healthcare team. And we have some really exciting plans moving forward, which I'm sure we can go into in a little bit. So ultimately, that is what we do. We have been set up now for and working with thousands of women for about 2.5 years in total. And it came just after COVID. The idea came to me just after COVID. So to preface the story around the idea of C-Section UK, prior to that moment, I had been working as a midwife in hospital, and at the same time had been working as a private birth educator as well. So I taught hypnobirthing, I worked with private clients, and I really, really loved working privately with women and their families, because it affords you a lot of the opportunities that sometimes are missing in clinical work with the busyness of clinical work. So you get to spend as much time as the family needs you to spend with them. You can really tailor it to them and their individual needs. You build up this beautiful relationship with the family. And I think something that I've learned over the decade or so I've been in midwifery, which has really been a roller coaster journey of learning, is that there has to be a balance between really pragmatic and practical information, but you do need to kind of, I guess, somewhat spiritually hold a family. They need to feel cared for. So I was really drawn into that side of midwifery and still am. I still really enjoy those aspects. So that was a good few years prior to the birth of C-Section UK, excuse the pun.
We love a good pun.
Yes. And what I found when I was teaching antenatal education and working with clients and teaching hypnobirthing, and obviously existing in that world of birth education as well, which, some of your viewers for this podcast probably have never touched into that world. It is, it's never what people think it is. It's usually highly political and opinionated, and there is a lot of difference in opinions when it comes to birth education. So I had a good few years in that world, and so what I saw consistently was this real gap in information and education, or even, acknowledgement, I would say, at times for the journey for C-section parents. And sometimes I also felt that it was sort of an add-on to the information that women received. Here is all of the information you need, and also here's 2 lines on C-section birth, should that be, should that happen. But we know statistically more and more women are having C-section births. Now, there is a whole other conversation around why that is and should that be the case, but that's not the conversation I was having at the time, or the thoughts I was having at the time. They were centered around, well, this is happening, so therefore these women are not getting the information that they need. Yeah. And there is, I started market research and looked at what was available to them. And there didn't seem to be a platform solely dedicated to those having a journey through C-section birth and recovery, which I thought must be wrong, because that's surely not. Like, there are over 250,000 women having a C-section birth every year across the UK.
I mean, that's huge, isn't it?
That's huge.
Huge numbers.
That's huge. That's 250,000 scars that need to be cared for.
And none of those women are being served.
I didn't think so. Not in the ways that they needed to be served, and the information that they needed. And that was validated by women when I started to speak to them and put the idea out there that I might do a small something on the side of what I was already doing. Yeah. They fed back that would be really helpful, and that they were unable to find information, or they were having to scroll through the internet to find a tiny, tiny piece.
I want to dig into that a bit more, because I think that's something that you do so well throughout the time that we've obviously worked together, and just in general in your businesses, is that you seem to have this connection with your customers, and you're not afraid to ask them for their feedback, not afraid to interact with them. Can you talk a bit more about how that's come about and why you think that's important for building your business?
Yeah. So I think there's two answers and perspectives to that question. From a business point of view and from a customer point of view and a customer relationship point of view. So from a business building point of view, I actually think on reflection now, many years down the line, it was actually helpful not knowing much about business because I didn't have any ego or an idea of how somebody would build a business. I just did what I thought was going to get me the answers I needed to understand what I needed to do next.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't come from a business background, really. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit. My family do have a business, so there is a degree of business understanding. But ultimately, I came from the hospital. Yeah. I stumbled across this problem. I figured out a solution, and then I asked people if it would work. That was as complex as it was at the start.
She's so modest. You are so modest, honestly. You have a great wealth of subject matter knowledge.
Yes, yeah, I do have that.
And
that's true.
Spotting that problem that your, patients were experiencing. I'm sure many other midwives had seen that. Yeah. And not felt the urge to want to solve it or want to find out why. And I think you need to give yourself some credit because honestly, looking at C-Section UK as it is now and knowing some of your bigger plans, I think the change that you are making for women across the UK and here in Guernsey is really incredible. And I think it's that empowerment that you've managed to sort of engage with these customers, with these women, and hold them, as you said, give them space to feel like they're being heard and being seen in a time that's really vulnerable for them in their lives, especially, first-time mums or mums-to-be when they don't know what to expect or, what's going on.
And I think you're absolutely right in saying that. And I think because I haven't, thank you for the compliments, by the way, but because I haven't necessarily come from a massively business-orientated background, more healthcare background, I don't think I ever saw the women as customers. I think I saw them as women in our care. And despite this being a business, and despite, as time has gone on and we've interacted with more business people and have needed to do that to be able to grow into certain areas, they're the ones that I use language like customer to, but it's a very foreign word to me. I wouldn't really use that word. And I think that probably has been to my benefit because I guess I understand our users more because I don't believe that they are a customer. I believe that they are a woman in our care. And I think that comes from subject matter experience and also having been a midwife. I see my role in this when interacting with those that are using C-Section UK as first and foremost a midwife providing care to them through the information we give. Now, of course, there is a secondary role and excuse me, C-Section UK wouldn't exist without the secondary role of being a businesswoman and understanding the numbers and marketing and all of that side of things. But I think that has to be secondary to really understanding what the people who are going to be using your service need from you. Yeah. And I don't think I could have ever have understood that unless I had been day in, day out, right next to these individual women, quite literally and physically caring for them and seeing where the gaps existed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's something so key in business development. And I want people to take home that actually when you start a business, traditionally the journey of an entrepreneur was seen as, I've got this great idea, I'm going to go out and tell people and get investment or support for it. I'm going to build this solution, this product, and then I'm going to launch it and the customers will come. And
I think that doesn't work.
Yeah, from the early days of production lines and things like that, that's where that concept has come from.
Yeah.
And actually in the book, Nail It and Then Scale It, by Nathan Furr, he talks about this new way that over the last sort of 10 to 20 years that they've been carrying out research to see that successful entrepreneurs are successful because they understand their customer and they're not married to the solution or the idea that they've come up with, but they're married to their customer.
Yeah.
And they want to understand what the customer needs and therefore build better products and better services and more successful businesses because they are very close to their customers.
I completely agree with all of that. I think the business is in service to the person that's using it, not the product. Our initial product, it feels unusual to me to call it a product, almost like
I'm getting you to use our business language.
I know,
but
it's right.
You feel, refer to it how you want.
Yeah. I think, even the initial product, we've talked about our future plans, and that product will become one of about 4 or 5 things that we'll be doing in service to the people using C-Section UK, because the absolute priority at every point of our business planning, whether it's a marketing decision or a financial decision or the development of an old product into a new one, which is quite literally what's happening at the moment, it's in relation to the feedback that we've received and the relationship that we've built with women. And I really think for those setting out on building businesses, and I would actually say, I'm going to be brave and say this, even the big, big, big businesses out there that are making big, big money, way more money than we're making probably, I think sometimes this can be missing, and it's really now very obvious to me when it is. That connection with the people using your business needs to be a community with a mission together, which sounds a little cheesy at first, but if we dive into it a bit more, like nobody is getting excited about a cold, hard product on the shelf, right? But you can get excited about the fact that that cold, hard product on the shelf is going to save women 20% time during the day. And that 20% time means that they can reinvest it in themselves. All of a sudden, that becomes a mission-driven business that is serving women and helping them to reclaim time in their day, for example. And that's something I can get behind, but the product itself on its own, without that narrative and that storytelling and that mission, it just doesn't really connect with me. And really, every single thing that we do in this life, be it marketing, be it the business overall, it's all about connection, and it's all about a mission to go somewhere. And that connection enables you to bring people with you on that mission. And excuse me, only through bringing people into that mission and on board with you are you going to drive popularity for your brand and more people wanting to be involved in it. I think there's a real piece around, although I hate to use the word customer, having your customer go on this journey of finding your service, using your service, and then being so connected to what you want to do and who you want to serve that they become a champion. And then all of a sudden they're almost part of, they're part of the team. They're like an extension of your team almost. And if you can utilize that, then you start building this network of people who are, champions for the brand and are backing the mission that you're all going on together. And it has to be deeply emotive. I mean, personally, it's the only kind of work I want to do. It's the only kind of work that I feel connected to doing. And and fulfilled by.
It's what keeps you going when things are really hard, right?
Yes.
Because running a business isn't always all the ups that everyone sees on social media.
No.
And those headlines about investment and sales and things. It's very much a roller coaster, right? So
yes, like hour by hour sometimes.
I think if, I think it's so important that you have that passion and that drive and the engagement in the purpose of the business to keep you going and draw on when things are difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to rewind slightly or pause because I think you're giving us a masterclass in sales, talking about converting customers to champions for the business and, building those relationships. And I think they're really important. Can we talk a bit about how you do that? So obviously, I said in the intro that you are also known as Midwife Vic, probably most commonly on social media platforms. So tell us a little bit about the journey of how that side of the business has evolved.
Yeah. So at first, it was a whim, an idea to get on social media, use my full professional title to be very, very clear and explicit in who I am and what I do. And I thought maybe 10 to 20, maybe 50 people might see it. I might be able to help people. And then that might be a way of acquiring 1 to 2 people that I could care for privately. So in its infancy, it was still a funnel for acquiring people who wanted to use my services. So I think it's important that I'm transparent enough to say that social media was always a tool for me, although one that I did not understand or leverage particularly well at the start. But
I think the important thing here is that you just went and did it.
Oh, I just did it
just
anyway.
Tried. And you didn't overthink the fact that you hadn't done watch 20 masterclasses on how to talk to camera or what the right hashtags are or anything like that.
I honestly think like my entire life has just been throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like I threw a pin in a map.
I love that phrase.
I threw a pin in a map and landed in Guernsey. I didn't do any research. I didn't even know how to say the word Qatar. I couldn't pronounce Qatar properly before I moved to Qatar. So I do think if anyone is watching this, please understand that I am slightly unhinged and a little bit crazy, which I'm very comfortable with now. And probably have always been, really. But I am aware that like my approach is it's maybe not for everyone. I do think you have to be a little bit, probably ballsy. But I think that probably comes from being slightly crazy as well. I don't know.
Also known as just taking risks and betting on yourself, right?
You have to be comfortable with risk taking for sure. And I think to be comfortable with risk taking, what you actually have to be comfortable with is failing and being embarrassed, and for people, to maybe judge you a little bit and to say things about you. That's the bit when people say you have to be comfortable with taking risks. Actually, that's the bit you have to be comfortable with. You have to be comfortable with everyone thinking you're silly and doing it anyway until they don't think you're silly. I have a classic example of this.
Oh, go on then. I was going to say that might be one of I think the hardest attributes to develop. I think you can develop it, but if you naturally have it, it comes naturally to you. It's so much harder. And I know I work really hard to try and embody some of that, but I really struggle with not the fear of, I guess in essence it is the fear of failure, but of being embarrassed, of doing something, putting myself out there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think
that's normal.
That is, and for you to say that you are comfortable doing it, I think is,
Oh, I don't know. The thing is, I don't know if I could honestly say I'm completely comfortable with it. Most of the time it feels very uncomfortable, but I think I'm comfortable with discomfort. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
And certainly that was very, very difficult many years ago. That's something that I've developed. I think I've always been reasonably comfortable with discomfort, but
Do you think it's like a muscle then that you
Yeah.
know, the more you use, the
Yeah.
more you take risks and try these things?
Yeah, I
The
do.
sort of more comfortable you get with
Yeah.
being uncomfortable.
Well, it's just proof, right? So you just get evidence and proof that you can do a thing, and then you can feel a way, and you will be fine. You will still survive.
Yeah, still
You know,
breathing.
You're still going to breathe. And if everyone thinks it's a terrible idea, well, that's fine. And then it'll either be a terrible idea and you'll move on,
Yeah.
or it'll not be a terrible idea and you'll think, well, that's proof. And my example is when I moved to, there'll be people that are watching this that will recognize themselves in this story potentially. But
Oh, I can't wait.
well, I like all of them. I don't have a problem with them. They're great people. But I do understand why they thought what they thought. I was in the Northeast at the time. And there was a bunch of people that had heard that I was going to Qatar. Qatar wasn't as known then. So this was like 9 years ago.
Yes, what are we talking about?
Yeah, like
2017?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it was around
My
then.
maths is terrible. So.
Oh, mine too. So it wasn't as known as, I think people know where Qatar is now. And it's people travel there a lot more now, I think. So yeah, people found out that I was going to Qatar, and I was young. I was 25, I think, when I went to Qatar. Maybe younger, 24, 25. And yeah, I had heard what was being said about me at the time. And lots of, not so positive comments about being silly and young, and I don't know the risks, and I don't understand, and lots of comments like that.
Assumptions.
Anyway, yeah. I actually did understand. I had a really good knowledge of the Middle East, reasonable knowledge of the Middle East. I had been previously. I'd done a lot of traveling through a number of different countries that were less developed. That they didn't know that. So those comments were made, and not 2 years later, those people came out to holiday there because they could see the benefit of the country. So that's okay. Like, I never said anything because everyone's on a journey. It's all a process of understanding. I think you just have to set aside any judgment, really, which is hard. Certainly when I was younger, I didn't do that as well as I do now. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for people who are setting out in business, and also those that are, have been doing it a long time, is the risk taking and this idea of being comfortable with fear of failure is just being comfortable with feeling silly. And that's the cost, really, of seeing if something works. And then doing it again and again and again to prove to yourself that even when you felt silly, you still got back up and went about your day the next day, and, you tried the next thing. It's hard sometimes, but it's within everyone's ability to do that. It just takes a little bit of pushing oneself, I think.
Yeah. And I know that you have, I would say, a really silly side to yourself personally as well. I think you have a really good balance of work. I hate that phrase, actually, the work-life balance, because I think it's all life.
Do you think I have good work-life balance?
Or maybe it just comes across like that on social media. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's intentional, though.
Oh, okay.
So back to our questions around social media, I guess.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We'll round everything up by the end of the podcast, I'm sure.
So I mean, we really do utilize social media as the marketing platform that it is. It is our modern day advertising billboard, but it offers more than a billboard.
It's two-way, right? So you get...
It's two-way, exactly. So all it is an opportunity to connect, an opportunity to really lean into the psychology of people and what they want from you. And a lot of the time, people just want to be heard, and they want to offer their opinion because they want to be valued and for their journey and their experiences to be valued as important.
Yeah.
And if you are in an area of business, again, an area of life, let's say, our business is centered around an area of life where people sometimes feel stripped of that voice, and maybe they feel a little disempowered, or maybe their parts of their journey have not felt particularly validated or acknowledged for the hardness and the difficulty that it was. If you can look at your service user, customer, doesn't come naturally
You'll
to
get
me.
there.
Yeah. If you can really understand them, you understand that psychology. And if you can understand that psychology, then you can work with it. And I think there's a combination of that and the development of personal brand. I work with a lot of, as you know, I do a lot of consulting for lots of different businesses and brands, some of which are healthcare oriented and some are not. They speak to me from a business development point of view, which is wild, by the way. Because once upon a time, it feels like 2 seconds ago, I was very much a midwife on a ward, and now sometimes I work with these very large companies, which, yeah, it's quite something. And I think often the thing that smaller businesses do way better than bigger businesses with lots of money, because they have absolutely no choice but to do this, is to develop a personal brand and to be a face of something. And it is more than just, hi, I'm Vic and this is my business. It has to be, you have to think a little bit more outside the box than that. It has to be more about the relationship that you can offer somebody. And what does that mean? So for us, we are a medical-led platform. Our team, we have a larger team now than just myself. We have a team of 9. And a lot of our healthcare practitioners that work with us, there's a lot of intentional decisions around how they present on, for example, social media. Now, they're all fabulous, wonderful people who are incredibly intelligent. But we know through the study of social media that we have got 1, maybe just under 2 seconds, probably not even that, to grab somebody. And we cannot get across in that time frame verbally how proficient our, for example, obstetrician who works with us is.
Yeah.
She is unbelievably proficient, competent. She's a very senior obstetrician, and I've worked with her. She is wonderful in every way. That does not matter. And sometimes you have to be as brutal when it comes to your business development as that. That does not matter in the context that we're talking about, which is acquiring a service user / customer, because I'm not very good with the use of customer. What you need to do is pick apart your presentation on these platforms to understand what are the key elements visually that you need to be able to communicate a message in a second. And I think smaller brands do this better than bigger brands. Some bigger brands. There are some out there that are fantastic examples of this. But for example, it was very clear from the start that we would always all be in uniform, because that is a universal signal of who we are and what we represent. The next thing is we always use our titles before our names, because that is a really quick indication of who we are and what we are. And we always use a type of language. So we whilst we can be a little bit silly sometimes, and we can offer some personal touch points for connection with our user base, we're still adhering to the standards that you would expect from somebody who you're having an interaction with who happens to be a healthcare professional. If you would walk into a hospital clinic and expect a standard of interaction there, then we want to give you that plus more warmth and personal connection, so that actually us as the alternative becomes an even better option for you and one that you're more attracted to. But you still have trust and you still have confidence in us as a person stood in front of you and actually what that person represents, which is a platform that works with this standard of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I could just see from what you've shared with us there, the journey that you've been on from that first few, talking to camera, just turning on
I couldn't speak to camera first.
Instagram live or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, trying to acquire a couple of customers for your initial, private birth company to now where, you've actually got these really well thought out and you're able to justify the reasons why you make certain decisions on the presentation of your social media. So that's a really interesting journey to go on and obviously not an end point because you'll carry on developing as your customer develops and everything like that. So definitely excited to see where that goes. I think now's an opportunity for me to disclose that I am a 2-time C-section mum. And on the second one, I did use your birth courses, which I found amazing. But just picking up on that whole developing your community and allowing them to have a voice, I feel like that you are doing that so effectively by asking C-section mums to share their experiences to help other C-section mums. Because quite often what you see, and especially in emergency cesarean cases, is mums feeling quite powerless and quite
isolated.
And so for them to sort of take their experiences and then be able to share them back to help others avoid feeling like that, I think is something that definitely for me personally has been a really lovely thing to experience, but also to witness others of your customers doing, which is really amazing.
Yeah, people are never more motivated to help others than when they have faced a situation that has lacked help for themselves. People or that they have not got the help that they needed at the time, because that evokes a huge emotional, reaction, understandably, which is often isolation or vulnerability or just, real sadness or anger that they were left without this key piece of information they needed, or, weren't able to see their story reflected back in others because they were in a group of people who didn't have the same story as them, and they feel different to everyone else. So those people are never more motivated than when they've experienced that to help others. We find that people are very motivated to help others because they don't want another woman to be in that position. And I noticed that really early on and could see the value for other women in that, because we can, as healthcare professionals, talk and teach about the process as much as we can, and that still has huge value in, the very practical information that people need, and they still want to come to a healthcare professional for sure, a midwife usually for sure, for that information. But they also just want to hear from someone else who's been through it as well, and they want to see physically what that journey has looked like, what a scar has looked like at 6 hours old compared to 6 weeks, compared to 6 months, because they want to have very, very visible proof that things change and get better. And it is a next step up to be able to provide imagery and videos compared to just verbally reassuring somebody. And it brings people together as well.
Yeah. And we're in such an age of information where, you can Google search, you can ask AI, you can find out all of this information about a wealth of different topics. But obviously, at the stage when you founded the business, and maybe even still now, there was this massive gap in information about C-section births and the whole experience around it.
And can I add a piece? Is that okay to that?
Of course.
Because somebody spoke to me around this. I know that there will be people viewing this right now who will be thinking, well, there was a gap then, but we have AI now, so AI can fill that gap. AI can give women that information. It's true. It can. The commodity is connection. We're in a market now where the commodity is moving forward, where AI is something that we're using more and more, where businesses are using AI. The connection will be the commodity that people want. Yes, they can go on chat or whichever other AI provider, not naming providers, whichever other platform, and ask it a question. Those women tell me that they do that, and then they ask me, or they ask one of my team, because what they're looking for is the connection with people who they believe are trustworthy, valuable, warm. That human connection will be the commodity. And so for those who are watching this with businesses of their own, I mean, I would never be so arrogant as to think that I can necessarily give you advice and that you...
She definitely can, by the way. She definitely
Well, it's just a general discussion around
From her
this.
experience.
From my experience, I would say that if you are looking at your marketing plans, the key piece that you should be threading through it all is, it's not necessarily always visibility. That's still important, but it's this connection piece. And we've been on a journey with our marketing, and myself and our head of socials talks about this an awful lot. There is typed words on a screen, and then there is a voiceover with a moving picture or a moving, a piece of video. One will get more connection than the other. It's how you distribute the language across your voiceover as well. You need to start off with an emotive piece. We talk about hooks. That hook is emotive. It's a statement that draws upon a connection, that draws upon emotion. And there is a reason that social media has a formula, and there is a reason that it is as popular as ever. And that's because we're in an attention and connection commodity-based society now. And if you can get those two pieces right, you'll do just fine.
Yeah.
And whilst AI will exist, and I'm sure people will use it, they will still find your service helpful, and they'll still engage with it if they're getting those two pieces.
And I think that leads us nicely on to, if you want to share a few things around the future of C-Section UK and where you see some of maybe your opportunities to grow in the space.
So I think... Oh, sorry.
You apologise to a table there.
That's because it's all about connection, Jenny.
I'm connecting my leg with this table here.
So at the minute, we are very much a digital-based service. We'll maintain that moving forward because it gives us accessibility, it gives us the reach, we can scale it out. We are using AI, and I'm quite comfortable with talking about that in terms of how it is benefiting our service to grow. And certainly if you're a small business, there's no two ways about it. You should absolutely be using AI.
Where did you start with your AI journey then?
Really simply, like everybody else did. We used it like Google, which was completely inefficient and ineffective. But that's how most people started off with AI. And now we, very much are coaching it to be our additional employee that can do tasks that are somewhat automated, repetitive. And AI is getting more and more advanced in understanding tone and emotion, which is really helpful. I think if you're in the business of healthcare, health tech, we have to be just a little bit cautious around the guardrails and what we are asking it to do in terms of conversing with people who are using your service. That's something that we're still very tentative about, and we're not using it for that purpose yet, but we will in the future. So I would say in terms of our future plans, AI is written into all of it. Gosh, I don't know what I can say and what I can't say at the moment because it's still going through a lot of legal stuff.
We can I leave it there. I think
there are huge future plans. Some of them are very much entrenched into the digital and AI areas of the business, and some are very much physical, which will be really surprising to people because so many businesses are just kind of like AI, AI, AI. But there is still a place for a very physical business. But I think you have to be just a little bit smart about what model you use. So maybe that's all I can say.
and I think, picking up on your commodities, I think experience is a huge one as well. People are investing huge amounts of their own money in getting high quality experiences. Yeah. And so when you think about something as essential as support around birth and recovery, especially in the cesarean space, isn't that a great way to invest your money, really?
Right, exactly. So you're on the nose and very much close to what we're going to be developing.
I will say no more.
Say no more, because I know you know what we're developing. But it is very much, a user experience. You can get somebody to tell you how to look after your specific scar, right? You can talk to AI and it will tell you 7 things to do, and that's your experience. And that is usually not even nearly enough for people because they want to have a very personal experience. We need to recognize that this experience and the experiences that they have had acquiring this C-section scar is deeply emotional, and they want to be held through those emotions. And I always think when we're thinking about the development of this area of the business, I'm talking in riddles now, so let's see if people can work this out.
Answers we talked on a postcard.
Comment below.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so old school.
We talked about these 3 scenarios. One was, so overarching situation, I have a C-section scar. I don't like it. I want it to be better in some way. You can go to chat. It will give you, or AI, whichever one you're using, it will give you 7 things that you should do. That is going to give you a solution. That's an experience that you've had. You could go to a healthcare professional who maybe you don't really connect with particularly. I'm sure there are lots out there that you would, but in this instance, let's use this example of someone that you don't connect with very much. They don't really look at your scar. They don't listen to your story, and you don't feel particularly validated. So they've given you the information. You've physically been present with someone, but your experience has been, in your opinion, poor for whatever reason. And then you have the third scenario where somebody is specifically trained for C-section recovery. So now we have an acknowledgement and an understanding of the emotional journey that you've been on, as well as the physical journey. So all 3 scenarios, you get the information for the scar, but there's 3 different user experiences. And the user experience is the thing that people want. They want to feel cared for and held in that moment and in that space. And I'm sure to some that will sound fluffy, but you can apply your more robust, harder, more maybe somewhat masculine language to that. It's the same thing. You have 3 different experiences and you have 3 different outcomes from that experience. All of them offer the same very practical tips, but they are experienced differently by your customer or service user. And to completely circle back to the first thing that we spoke about, it is all about connection as a commodity and relationships and why somebody would want to get on board with you as a business. Because they're not, getting on board with you as a business, they're getting on board with you as a solution to their problem. And their solution is not just a physical one. It is always a deeply emotional one. And that's an easy thing to understand with our business, where we accept the emotional journey. But for those that have got more of a physical product, don't think that that doesn't apply to you too, because everything that you are, if I am purchasing anything, it is an emotional journey to purchasing, and I am more likely to purchase if I feel good as a result of that emotional journey. Even getting a sandwich, or a coffee.
Actually, there's, the whole famous marketing theory from Clayton Christensen, if I've said his name right, about looking at how McDonald's could sell more milkshakes. In particular, their thick shakes. And they tried loads of different flavors. They tried asking customers what flavors that they thought they should do. They changed the consistency. They changed the recipe. They did all of these things to try and boost sales of these milkshakes. And none of it had any impact on the figures. And so what they did is they went down to their nearest McDonald's at the time that was the peak for selling these milkshakes. And they said, they asked the customers, what are you doing now? Now you've bought this milkshake, what are you going to do? And most of them were like, oh, I'm going to drive to work now. And they're like, okay, and then where's your work? And they're like, oh, it's about a 45-minute, this was in America, about a 45-minute hour commute. And they were like, oh, okay. And if you didn't buy this milkshake, would you have eaten anything else, or would you have done it? And they're like, oh, well, maybe a coffee or an apple, because it's kind of my breakfast on the way to work. And they realized that when they dug down deeper in all these customers, that the thing that was getting them to buy them was the consistency, because it took them a while to drink it on their drive. It was easy to hold and drink through a straw. And so they really dug down deep as to find the motivation for why the customer was buying them. And then that understanding allowed them to do better marketing and increase milkshake sales, because they could talk to customers in similar positions and understand that they were competing with things like bananas and coffee as opposed
to accessibility.
Other milkshakes.
Yeah, it's accessibility for them. But if you think about coffee, there is a reason that I, maybe 4 days out of 5 every week, go to a coffee shop rather than pour my own coffee. And that's because there is an emotional journey and an emotional user experience in going to a coffee shop and somebody making your coffee for you and being presented with your coffee and sitting in that environment of the coffee shop. And it's, well known across marketing that and business that you can have the same thing presented in 3 different ways and people will react to it differently. So actually it's less about the thing and more about the things around the thing. It's more about the emotions and the journey. And again, to circle back to my first point, it always comes back to the person using the service and what service you're providing for them, not the product, the service and the solution that you're providing to them. Yeah.
I wonder if, and I'm going to try and not to obviously shoehorn this in, but thinking about your heritage and where you've come from, and the fact that your parents are business owners too, right?
Well, they might
have taught you something about customer service.
1 or 2 things.
Things like that?
Yeah, they have actually just sold up.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, we better let everyone in on the secret.
Yes, my parents did own a cheese shop, very successful cheese shop.
Not just a cheese shop, it's like a world famous cheese shop in Yorkshire, right?
Morpeth in Northumberland, The cheese shop, been there since 18, I don't know, turn of the century or something like that.
If we're really clever, we could maybe pop a photo in the video.
Sure.
Is that
I can get you that. Is it super cheesy? Yes, it is cheesy.
I'm looking at Josh. He's going to kill us.
Yes, no, they've just retired just about a month ago now, a few weeks ago.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Congratulations to them. It has been in our family for a long time and we've spent most Christmases at the cheese shop. But yeah, I've definitely, learned a lot from that. I would say I've learned a lot from healthcare as well, because although it's not positioned as a customer experience, it is. And there is a lot of skills that you develop, especially as a midwife working on a labour ward, especially when you're working in high risk environments, because you have to be quick with your decision making. You have to be very intentional with what you do. And if you are a really good midwife, you develop skills in explaining things in simple terms quickly that people can understand. And you get very good at, you're working with lots of different professionals with different roles, with different priorities. So you get good as a midwife, who very much is the middleman, I think, because you're managing everybody around you, at negotiation, at balancing priorities. Often there are a couple conflicting ones at the same time that are time sensitive. And you do that under very, very, very high pressure and emotional, environments. And you get very, very good at reading people, because you have to read people, because sometimes they don't have the ability to communicate.
They might not always say.
Yeah, they might not always say, or they don't have the ability to communicate, don't wish to communicate it with you. But not verbally, non-verbally, you have to be able to pick up on those signals that are often quite subtle to understand who you're working with. And you've got to have the ability to be able to do that with 3 different couples in the space of 5 minutes as you go between them. And you do, that's
High
the reason
pressure.
why it's a very high pressure. And you're dealing with people who've got completely different backgrounds and different circumstances. And some things are happy and some things are very sad. And you have got to very quickly flip how you present yourself to be able to quickly get a connection with the person in front of you. I actually would say, if anyone, I don't know if you'll have a huge healthcare following for this podcast or not. Hopefully you do. But I think healthcare workers are forever believing that they have a set of healthcare skills and that they don't really extend. It's not transferable. It's an extend beyond that. And I would go so far as to say they are more transferable and extendable to different roles than many other professions, actually. And I think, healthcare staff are under a huge amount of pressure. It's very difficult circumstances at the minute to work in, to say the least. And I think sometimes they forget their value, or maybe they've never understood their value in the first place. I definitely fell into that group many years ago. And it was a process of learning and understanding the value in the skills that I had. And yeah, if there's any healthcare workers out there, I would say have confidence in the skills that you've developed. And I would also say if there's any big companies watching this, consider the nurse that comes to interview for your position, because they will keep their cool. We are unflappable. Usually.
It's funny because I've always said that I think that if you want to run your own business or you want to be an entrepreneur, and especially because we go into schools and present to like post-16 students about what it looks like to run your own business and things like that, I've always said retail and hospitality are 2 great industries to work in to get that customer experience. To get that customer service, sales, techniques and things like that.
Let's be really, really candid. You just have to develop a very thick skin as well. People are going to be mean to you.
But
and
maybe
you need
I'm adding healthcare to that list, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, and maybe we should be going into... No, we don't want to poach our nurses and our doctors. But, as you say, if people are thinking of taking a different direction.
Or a secondary route as well. That was me for a long time. A lot of people...
We love a side hustle.
And also, there's a lot of people will do split hours between different roles. I do think I mean, we know that most of the healthcare workforce, I think more than less, are part-time rather than full-time. And that's for a whole bunch of different reasons. But I think, I think it's a really difficult job to do full-time day in, day out. It's very demanding. So I know that there are lots of healthcare professionals that are looking for something additional that they can split their time between to offer a little bit of relief to any stress that they're experiencing. I think often we gloss over some of the really obvious and not very glamorous terms when it comes to business. You have to get tough quickly. You've got to develop a thick skin in terms of looking silly and picking yourself back up afterwards. And you've got to be really self-motivated, which is a hard one as well. And you can learn all the marketing stuff and read all the books you want, but those three things you can't be anything other than backing yourself when you do this. You almost have to be like slightly, insanely, crazily hyping yourself up all the time. And then like once a month you can be like, oh, it's all going wrong. That's allowed. And then you have to pick yourself back up again.
And then go again. Yeah. Well, I was going to wrap up the podcast by asking you if you had any recommendations or any advice for someone who's thinking about doing this, thinking about starting a business and not sure where to go. But I think what you just said was amazing. So unless you've got anything else that you wanted to add.
Ask other people, I would say. You need feedback. And I would also say just get really, really comfortable with things flopping and failing and not working. You have to reframe how you see that. It's actually a really good life lesson as well for things outside of business. Listen to podcasts, read books around this failure aspect and how actually it's just a feedback loop. That's all it is. Sometimes it's a difficult one, but it is a feedback loop for you. And I think especially, men and women, I guess, I'm speaking from a female perspective, I think you can put a lot of pressure on yourself to be perfect and to get everything right. And again, it's pride as well. We don't want to look silly in front of people. But if you can pop that aside, if you can learn to shove it to one side, you will learn how to use failure as a feedback loop and really importantly, get back up quickly, because often time is of the essence when it comes to building a business. The quicker you can bounce back, the better you will be.
Keep that momentum going.
Keep the momentum going. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Vic. I'm sure we had loads more to talk about, like how you love
talk all day.
Sea swimming and how I'm trying to get you to drink some matcha.
Yeah. Not done that yet.
How we have a shared passion for custard tarts or pastel de nata from Portugal.
God. Yes, we do.
But I think that's all we have time for. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a delight.
In the Digital Greenhouse podcast. I've been Jenny, your host, and we'll be back next month with another episode of Future Reimagined. Thanks for joining us.